What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise live here on a Thursday night. Eric had some rec league today. I actually didn't have rec league today. I'm in my off season, so you're in season. I'm off season. We're gonna get you geared up for the Blazers off season, and we're gonna talk rumors. We're gonna talk draft with only that being a 1 week away. God, I can't believe it. It's only 1 week away. I've been grinding draft graphics. That's fun. I'll have a video later tonight. I'm going to catch back up on the uploads. I've just been putting in so much time into this draft stream that's coming up. Oh, I am so excited for what we got planned, man. We're getting into crunch time here, Eric. It's almost here. First off, how was your day? Second off, how was your rec league game? Third, how many points and assists did you drop?
Oh, we don't keep stats, so I'm not sure, but
You don't keep track of every point and rebound and stat in your head?
I mean, I kind of do, but when you get as many as me, it's hard to keep track. No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
I wouldn't.
No, we ended up getting a win. We let this team hang around, and they hit a bunch of threes in the second half and build a double-digit lead. And then I came back in the game, and we snuck out a victory. So all good. I think we only allowed 3 points the last 12 minutes or something. Played some lockdown D.
Nice. Yeah, I had a game on Tuesday. That was our rec championship for the weekday league. The shorter court, Eric, the 4-on-4 league.
Yeah.
That's always been my OG league. And we had like a good player suspended all season for trying to fight in the last championship game that got canceled because he was trying to fight. Still won. And it just doesn't feel like much of an accomplishment since I've started playing in the Saturday league. That's a bunch of tryhards. We had playoffs last weekend, and we lost in the semifinals. So it's an 18-team league, bunch of JUCO guys. We lost in the semifinals to a team we had already beaten. That was frustrating.
Bummer.
And then the team that won it all was another team we had already beaten. So, next season I'm ready to go, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like I'm finally getting the feeling of playing like organized basketball again with refs that I can yell at and get teed up. Because I got teed up a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it's fun. So,
Rip City says the other team sounds like the Blazers this last season, giving up late double-digit leads.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that back up and reminding me, man. That was a very traumatic season, them doing that over and over and over again. But man, it's nice to just be able to actually kind of relax, which is basically what the stream is going to be for me, because it's been a nonstop grind getting this stuff ready for you guys. Shout out to Chris, who's helping me a ton. He's going to help us on draft night, and then we'll have a third guest who's going to be a newsbreaker on draft night. Because Twitter spoils the picks, right? Except apparently Woj won't be doing that this year. I still assume Shams will, but Woj says he's just going to focus on breaking trades and like he's not going to spoil picks on Twitter.
I think it's going to be part of the coverage on ESPN too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so he's not going to spoil picks on Twitter, but that's always been a thing where picks get spoiled ahead of time. I like reacting to them based on the TV. So the plan is this year to have a third person who will see all the leaks because he's just going to be on Twitter the whole time, and he's going to break trades to us and to you guys. We'll just bring them in to break something, and that'll be fun. That's part of one of the segments we have planned for that. So, man, I've just been grinding those, trying to get caught up on videos, record a couple things. It's nice to just be able to sit back and relax and not feel like I'm working. Just hang out with you guys as we. No, it's not Gabe. It's not Gabe. It's a Blazer fan, not a Suns fan. Although Gabe would be pretty entertaining doing it, not gonna lie. But I got somebody I trust to do a really good job in that role. But man, it's nice to just be able to hang out with you guys and talk Blazers, talk rumors, kind of get caught up on some things tonight.
And how is everyone in chat doing? How was your day?
Hopefully you guys had a good day.
If you're in school, I know a lot of you finished school this week, so congrats on that.
Congrats to everyone who graduated. Graduated? I feel like I said that weird. Shout out to Jackson, who's our mod. He graduated. Shout out to Reese. He graduated as well. Happy for you guys. Also, leave a like on the stream. Those are two totally unrelated things, but just leave a like on the stream because that like button is looking sad right now. Anyway. Whew. I've been scramble-brained all day. I'm just catching my breath. Chat, what do you want us to talk about first? Okay, there's a bunch of different things we can talk about first. You know what? Actually, Eric, we never do this. Let's do a Q&A first, and we can segue that into every talking point for the stream.
Yeah. Let me just say, like, a general thing.
Sure.
Like, everything you read, please don't be that person that's like, oh my god, this is happening, or this isn't happening now. Like, there's so much like just BS being thrown out there right now. I mean, just look, just between the Hornets and the Blazers, there's all these conflicting reports about they're taking Scoot. No, Scoot had the best workout of all time, and Mitch Kupchak like found the meaning of life during his workout watching Scoot. He was that good, but they're still gonna take Miller over him, and like come on, like, you know, we're trading Dame. No, but there was no way we're trading Dame. We're keeping the pick. No, we're for sure trading it still. It's worth like a superstar. No, it's worth crap. Like just calm down. Like, take a little second each time you read one of these and like try to at least think about it logically if it makes sense, like that a team would leak this information. Like, why? Like, if we were like zoned in on for sure taking like Amen, for example, right? Let's just say this whole time the Blazers have wanted Amen Thompson, right? And they don't want anyone to know that, right? Because there's probably other teams that think they're going to get Amen if they trade up to 4 or whatever, right? So, like, there's no way, if you hear a report that the Blazers want Amen Thompson, that's coming from the Blazers, right? They would have kept that, like, hush, locked and sealed, and not told a soul about it. So, like, you've got to think about, like, why would this information leak, or what purpose does this person have of, like, leaking this information? So, don't just take everything at face value and just think it's automatically true, especially these few days before the draft. Like, there's so many fake rumors out there to get teams to bite on trades or to scare teams into moving up when they don't have to and things like that.
Yeah. We try to prepare you guys for the game of chess, the storm. Like, we haven't picked with the 3rd overall pick since we traded it for Bartell Webster and should have drafted Chris Paul back in 2005. This is the highest we've picked since then. I guess we had 4 in 2006 and trade that up to 2 for Aldridge.
We had 1 in 2007.
Oh, we had 1. Yeah. See, I'm trying to forget everything bad that's happened. The double-digit blown leagues, Greg Oden. I'm just trying not to think about it because I want to be an optimist. But this is how it is at the top of the draft. We haven't gotten to experience it because we haven't been in a position like this in a long time. And this is how it is, especially with social media now too. That'll just fan the flames of everything, and that's how we hear about everything compared to, you know, back in the mid 2000s when that wasn't really a thing. Not surprised with all the conflicting stuff. This is to be expected. Just can't read too much into it. So don't overreact to any one thing. Sure, some of it's probably legitimate, but also a lot of it's going to be false as well. And there's going to be little tidbits of information that could be false that are leaked for a reason to try and give a team an upper hand in a negotiation, or I don't know. It's a game of chess. It can get very confusing. So all I know is we don't know, and we won't know until draft day is how it's looking like right now.
But okay, so let's just take Charlotte, for example, right? That workout, like Scoot had the best workout of all time, right?
Yep.
Like, okay, they have the number 2 pick, so they can say that, right? They're like the only team that could say that. But if you hear that from any other team about how great a workout was, like, they don't want you to know that. Or they want you to think that it was a great workout when it really wasn't anything special. So, like, Charlotte's the only team that doesn't have to send smoke screens. It seems like they still are for some reason. But, like, any other team, they're not going to just be like, oh yeah, we're the Pacers with the 7th pick. We really want Austin Thompson to fall to us, so we're gonna talk about how good he is. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, and here's the thing with workouts too with Brandon Miller is supposedly he's recovering, or like he's recovered from mono, but he lost 13 pounds is what I read, and obviously, if you have mono for a bit, I don't know how long he had it for, but if you lose 13 pounds, you're not going to be in tip-top shape for these workouts. How much can these organizations really base off his workout if he doesn't have a great workout, but he lost 13 pounds and is still getting back to full form because he had mono? You know, so we heard a report about how Brandon Miller was like out of shape or something a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how many weeks ago it was, but we heard something like that. And then I've read that he had mono at some point since the end of the season. So, I mean, that would make sense, but that ain't his fault if the dude has mono. So, yeah, Chris C says mono is awful. I had it for 3 months. Yeah, I've known people who have had mono, and it's not fun. Fortunately, I don't speak from experience there, but it's not fun. So even if he has workouts where he struggles, and that's true, you can't really base much off of that either, because he's not going to be in tip-top shape recovering from that.
Well, especially after the last 3 years of like 20 through 2022, dealing with those off seasons and COVID and the influence that had, or players getting COVID and missing workouts or things like that. So we should be used to this by now. Like, people get sick and it causes disruptions and you're not at your physical peak in certain workouts. Now, there are times when someone could have not done much work and been lazy since the end of their college basketball season, and that would be concerning. But if he was legit sick, then that's not as concerning, especially losing weight. Like, if he came in like 20, 30 pounds heavier and he was just been eating this whole time and not working out, that would be very concerning, and he'd probably drop a lot. But yeah, getting sick and losing weight isn't anything to be concerned about.
People keep asking about how we know a Brandon Miller workout is tomorrow. Chris told me there's a Brandon Miller workout tomorrow, and I just believed him. So, Blevin says Mike Richmond said he was in town, and they announced a workout for tomorrow, so you can piece it together. Yeah.
A secret workout.
Yeah, so Brandon Miller.
Have you heard this G.J. Jackson stuff?
Yeah, so I want to hear you explain it for the people.
Well, apparently he was like super tired and had to end a workout early, and before he even left the gym, he was hitting a vape pen. Like, no wonder you're out of breath, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like,
that's the new generation, dude, Eric.
Even if you're super addicted to that stuff, which, like, I mean, I know it happens, but, like, that seems kind of stupid for a basketball player to, like, why would you even have that with you? Like, wait until you at least get outside and away from everyone. Like, I don't understand how, especially him, man. Like, he already has, like, the reputation of being kind of immature, and he's the youngest player in the draft, I believe. So, like he already has that. Like, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. Like, that just further proves you're immature. And then, like, if you're like that bad of decision making, like, if you're just doing that stuff like it's normal, like, how can you be trusted to, like, go through a strict regimen and get in shape and stuff and be ready for the season? I don't know. It's just kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this younger generation, man, like, they'll vape anywhere. It's such a normal thing that I wonder if it's just like he doesn't even think it's like wrong to do anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's like pulling out your phone, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I just sound old talking about that, but yeah. I graduated before vapes were really a thing. Vapes became vapes became a lot more mainstream like a couple of years right after I graduated. I would have never done it anyway, but yeah, I just remember hearing about how much of a problem it was a couple years after I graduated, and I guess it's so much of a problem that G.G. Jackson is vaping before leaving the gym. I mean, if you're a GM and you have a pick at like 25 and you're sitting there thinking like, oh, he has so much upside. If he's there at 25, we have to take him. But then he leaves the gym vaping. Does that change your thought process? Or you're like, screw it. His upside is still the same, whatever.
I mean, it sounds really stupid, but to me, I wouldn't be able to get that out. If two prospects were close or something, I'd probably taken the other prospect who had a good workout versus that.
I mean, it just says to me like he doesn't really care. I don't want a guy who doesn't care. Like, or it says to me he doesn't want to be here. He's trying to make it so he doesn't get drafted by us.
Or he's just
either
not
way.
Smart.
It's just a bad look. Yeah. So, especially with some of the red flags he raised at South Carolina. He's still only 18, so he's the type of guy where you get him in the right organization that mentors him. Like, it's fine. probably. Like, I don't know. He needs the right mentorship. If he goes to Houston, I'm worried. He can't go 20 to Houston. He can't go to I don't know, what other team? Charlotte? He can't go to Charlotte.
Yeah.
So.
I got some crap during the draft. I was really high on Tari Eason and Jabari Smith, and I just thought that was one of the worst situations they could go to. It's Houston with that culture there. They have a new coach now. Hopefully he can stay out of the pants of the front office. But yeah, so hopefully Ime could turn that around. But yeah, I just thought that was like a terrible position for those guys.
Yeah, it was funny that. Maybe it's not funny. Maybe funny's the wrong word. But for Ime to become the coach of that team was just kind of a little bit of an eye roll. Speaking of Houston, they're one of many teams supposedly that are looking to trade out of a top 10 pick. I don't have the article in front of me, but that's something I've read recently. Do you think that's legitimate? Which teams do you think are actually looking to trade their pick, and which teams do you think are staying in the top 10?
Well, I think Houston is. It's just so weird. I mean, either they're going to get Harden, right? Or that's come out that maybe that's just a ploy by Harden to get more money, a max deal from Philly. And that Harden basically told them he's gone if they don't fire Doc Rivers. And then, so they fired Doc Rivers. So maybe he'll stay with Nurse. I don't know. But if they are planning on going all in with Harden, I don't know if like Amen or Brandon Miller would fit, I guess, but I don't think he's falling to 4. So,
or maybe he should.
Yeah,
we're not going to start that conversation right now.
Yeah, well, maybe he should, but I don't. I'm saying like whether you have him 4 or not on your board, like I don't know if that's going to happen. So, yeah, it's I could definitely see them being dumb and just do it because like I don't know, Amen doesn't fit with Harden at all.
Yeah, I don't like that fit for them, even if they don't get Harden.
Right. So yeah, I don't really know what else they would do if they got like a good player that fits, even with some of their young guys better than some of the players available there. I could maybe see them doing that and just going more in on winning now.
I feel like if Masai gets an overpay in an OG trade, it'll be Houston, which maybe I feel like that because Houston traded for OG in our mock offseason, but I feel like Masai's the type of GM to fall in love with Amen Thompson, for better or worse. You know, he loves his long, skilled, athletic wings and forwards, and with 3 forwards there in Toronto, like it's just kind of a weird fit. And you got Pirtle, like basically you're playing OG at the 2, Scotty at the 3, Siakam at the 4, Pirtle at the 5. Like the problem is they need shooting, so Amen doesn't really make much sense in that regard. I just feel like that would be the type of guy Masai would really take a liking to, especially with a legitimate chance of Fred VanVleet leaving. You need a long-term point guard. Maybe that's Amen.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a chance that if Houston traded 4, maybe it'd be for OG in 13 or something like that.
Yeah, so once again, got to take all these with a grain of salt, but there was rumors that 3 teams particularly were trying to move up like crazy and not using players. They were all trying to use their stockpile of picks. And that was, 2 of them were OKC and Utah. Are looking to move up apparently, and
I could guess that, yeah.
And then Toronto is the 3rd team. I guess they would be trying to trade a player, but I've said this all along. I think Toronto would be the type of team that would basically come down on some of their demands for an Amen Thompson. I think he kind of fits their style, but he's a ball handler, so you could justify it maybe, even though the shooting is still a problem. So yeah, I think those 3 teams in particular. I know they would obviously want Scoot if they could trade up to get him, but they're also looking to move up if they are to get someone else. So those are teams to look out for if the Blazers have to trade the pick and that Scoot goes too. I still think there's going to be options.
It's just so hard to figure out. Like, we're a week away from the draft. I had hoped that maybe we would have a little bit better of a sense, but like I feel like we have less of a sense than we did a week or two ago. The video that I'm dropping tonight, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, but the thing is with Charlotte has been they're either going to draft Brandon Miller or they're going to draft Scoot Henderson, right? Like, that's kind of been the presuming thought. Like, they're going to keep the pick. They're going to take one of those guys. I know they've been attached to trade rumors, but I haven't taken that too seriously. Maybe it's trading down, right? But the thing is with the Pelicans becoming involved, supposedly they want Scoot. A lot of Blazer fans thought that's a good thing for the Blazers. I don't know if it's a good thing for the Blazers. Because the thing is with like a lot of the top Blazers trade targets, it's guys that it wouldn't make sense for Charlotte to trade for. It's Pascal Siakam with a year left on his deal. It's Jaylen Brown with a year left on his deal. It's Mikal Bridges who would want to play with Dame over playing in Charlotte. Like, Mikal would prefer Portland, right? So, I mean, Mikal would make sense in Charlotte from a fit standpoint, but I don't think Mikal would necessarily want to be there. So you're talking about three guys that would prefer, and I think would prefer playing in Portland compared to Charlotte. It didn't make sense for Charlotte to trade for any of those three of those guys, especially with two of them going into the final year of their deal. The problem is with New Orleans being involved is the whole thought process with Charlotte taking Brandon Miller is, yeah, maybe they're higher on Brandon Miller, but they could still take him even if they're not because of fit, right? They don't need another point guard. They need another forward. The problem is with New Orleans is they have two all-star caliber forwards that are young, fit a young timeline with Charlotte, and obviously since they're forwards, make sense from a fit standpoint. So now it becomes a situation where it's not just does Charlotte prefer Scoot or Brandon Miller? It becomes does Charlotte, if they care about fit, do they prefer Brandon Miller or whatever trade for number two is on the table? And if that's, I mean, I could see them justifying trading two for Brandon Ingram if it's on the table with the thought process of Brandon Ingram is probably as good as Brandon Miller ever will be. And he's still only 25, so at least it's a sure thing. You're getting a guy that's a sure all-star versus Brandon Miller, who, like, maybe in the best-case scenario could be better, but also could be worse.
Yeah. There is one thing about the Pelicans. Once again, don't know if this is true or not, but Jake Fisher reported that Zion and Ingram have not been on the table in any trade negotiations. So that's good if that's true.
Yeah. But also, just like we said in the intro, I don't know if I trust that. Yeah. I would expect New Orleans to start off playing hardball. Most teams, when they start off negotiations, are going to play hardball, and then it's which team budges first. The thing is, them budging could be trading one of those guys.
Yeah. Well,
and it's not like they don't have the wings to replace them.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, but the Jaylen Brown thing, like, it makes no sense for them to just come out and say, oh yeah, we're trading Jaylen Brown, like, we're not going to extend him. Like, of course they're going to say they want him in Boston and they're keeping him and they're going to extend him. That's how you should play that hand, right? So yeah, and make him, as long as he doesn't ask out, publicly, like, that's how you keep the value up. But I still think ultimately the Blazers are going to give the Celtics one last chance on the clock if nothing happens between now and then, and say, hey, do you really think you're going to get a better deal down the line than the third pick and Anthony Simons? And that'll be up to Brad Stevens to decide whether he wants to do that or risk losing Jaylen Brown or having less value maybe at the trade deadline or whatever, because he'd only be under contract for a couple months at that point. I do think ultimately this is setting up to come full circle and go back to Blazers on the clock. What will Boston say? Yes or no? Will they bite on it? Is everything they've been saying true, or are they really scared about losing Jaylen Brown and pull the trigger on a deal that they're not going to get anytime after that?
Yeah, because I watched a video. I forget who it was by, but it was a YouTube video. It was actually quite a good video, quite good analysis. It was a smaller channel. I think he had like 4K subs. I forget his name. He said he was a Laker fan, so I forgot his name right when he said that. But basically, the point he made was the Celtics, like Jason Tatum isn't good enough to just completely run your entire offense in a playoff series. Like, he's not Luka. He's not Steph. Steph doesn't even run the offense, but he's not like that type of guy. He can score and he can be like a secondary playmaker, but he's not a guy that's going to consistently excel against the top level defenses if he's like the main creator. The problem is when you're starting, they were starting Smart, right? I forget because they mix up their guards sometimes, but they're starting Smart, Brown, Tatum. Tatum's your number one creator. I know Smart's improved, averaged like 5.5 assists per game, but Tatum's your number one creator. The problem is with Jaylen Brown, like, you just don't have enough star level consistent shot creation for both themselves and others. Like, the thing is with Boston is they probably need a guard that can create offense and be that primary creator and help Tatum get easier looks, help take more of the burden off of Tatum, which Jaylen Brown's really, really good, but Jaylen Brown doesn't necessarily have that skill set. We've heard all the critiques about his ball handling and whatnot, right? No left hand, blah, blah, blah. Only 3.5 assists per game. He's not going to really take enough of the burden off of Tatum. It would make sense from a fit standpoint to get both Anthony Simons and Scoot Henderson to long-term take the pressure off Tatum to run that entire offense. Like, Scoot Henderson could be that guy. I think it would make sense from a fit standpoint. Defensively, can both those guys be good enough in the backcourt? I mean, your front court, they're in Boston. They got Robert Williams. He's great defensively. Got Jason Tatum. He's good. If he didn't have to carry the offense so much, maybe he'd be a little bit better. And they got guys that can do things offensively. It's just in the playoffs, I don't know. I feel like they may need that star guard creator. I don't know if Boston views it the same way, but Boston hasn't gotten over the hump the past couple years. They were close in the finals, but then really struggled against really struggled in the conference finals against Miami. They almost came back, but they lost. They barely beat Philadelphia. They won in 7. I don't know exactly how Boston sees it, and it could be a situation where Brad Stevens looks at their team and says, we were on the doorstep. Our team is good enough to win. We just didn't get the job done when it counted, but we have the talent to be able to do so. But I could also see Brad Stevens looking at it as a roster construction that's not fully optimized for Jason Tatum and the rest of that roster. So I think how Brad Stevens looks at that will be the determination of if Portland can trade for Jaylen Brown or not. Because if Brad Stevens doesn't view the roster as fully optimized, he may do that trade, especially with the chance that they could lose Jaylen Brown for nothing. And do that trade. Yes, they probably aren't as good next year, but Jason Tatum's still young. I believe he's only 25, 26 years old. Anthony Simons 23. Scoot's going to be 20, at some point next season. They have a long window with a team that you could make the argument is better optimized on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and the other thing that I've heard that will definitely factor into this Boston decision is that almost every single team outside of maybe the Warriors is very concerned about how this new second tax apron is going to affect them. And you could see a lot of players move simply to, it seems like a horrible trade, but it's just they're trying to look a year or two down the road and see, oh, we can't have two players making $110 million or something. So if a team like Portland is willing to pay a player that kind of money while they're already paying Dame, it could very easily be a situation where Portland could clean up and get some of these players, whether it's with the trade exception or in free agency. You might get a free agent that you would have never gotten because other teams, as it's played out in our mock-off season, like the tax MLE is almost an insult to some of these players because a lot of teams can only offer it and it's only $5 million, and like some of the vet minimums now are like in the $3 million range. So it's not that much more to just sign with another team for the vet min. So I do think that is going to weigh into Boston's decision too. That you could get Scoot under control for 4 years at, average about 10, 11 million per season at the end of the contract, versus and Anthony, who's on a pretty good deal, versus paying Jaylen Brown $50 million. So it's definitely a decision that they're going to have to make. And Boston has made moves around the draft to dump an Enes Kanter, to dump an Aaron Baines, and they've given up first-round picks to do it. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they're going to avoid being a way into the tax coming up. So that's the other factor here is I think that will loom in their decision is, do we really want to tie up all this money with these two players who have not won a ring yet?
Yeah, here's the problem, though. We just focus it from our lens, but, I mean...
Well, Jody.
Yeah, but that's a different conversation.
Right.
Portland really needs Charlotte to really want Brandon Miller. They need Charlotte to want Brandon Miller more than Scoot, and they need Charlotte to want Brandon Miller more than any trade package any team would give up for Scoot. Because if any team would give up a trade package for Scoot, they're going for the number 2 pick first. So Charlotte has the priority over Portland to accept any trade package, right? Like, moving up, we looked at it as, it doesn't matter if we're 2 or 3 because we're not number 1, but at least we moved up. But it could have massive implications because the team with number 2 gets priority on any offers for Scoot. Mm-hmm. So I am worried, that Charlotte is not dead set on Brandon Miller, like all the rumors suggest, and that they're just going to take Scoot Henderson because they have him higher on their board. And I'm worried that if that's not the case, there's a trade package that they'd like more than Brandon Miller that they're just going to take, and then whatever team trades up to 2, New Orleans or whoever, then it becomes a situation where they draft Scoot, and then Portland's sitting there at 3, and the trades they have on the table aren't doable because those teams want to trade for Scoot.
Yeah. Well, I will say to that, I don't know if the Celtics are... I mean, yeah, they would love Scoot, but I don't think it's ultimately dependent on Scoot being there. Because back when... I mean, there was rumors right after the Charlotte got the 2nd pick, I guess, when Kupchak came out and said they're not sure who they're taking, but the Blazers... I do believe that they might like another player too.
Boston?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be Miller, right?
Well, Miller or Amend, yeah. I think they could like either one of those.
So, here's the thing. Like, I'm wondering how many teams view this as a 4-player draft, not a 3-player draft. And obviously, in that context, Wembanyama's number 1 on everybody's boards. But I'm wondering how many teams would draft a men before Brandon Miller, because I think there is teams out there that would draft a men over Brandon Miller. I'm just wondering what that number is.
Well, I mean, some of these teams don't matter, but I'm pretty confident that Toronto and San Antonio would take a men. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure who would take him in over Miller.
Yeah. I have a funny feeling, right? Like, there is a conversation between Miller and Scoot because Charlotte's at number 2, but if it was a different team at number 2, I feel like it'd be a situation where we already know who's going number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
right? So it's still a conversation between Miller and Scoot because Charlotte's at number 2. But I feel like people underestimate how much of a conversation it is for Portland if they keep the pick, and also other teams if they trade into 3, how much of a conversation it would be between Amen and Brandon Miller.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the Blazers, I think that's what they're trying to do right now with all this, there's conflicting rumors. They're still trading the pick. They're still going to build around Dame, but they're also fine keeping the pick. And they're Dame's now coming aboard on that, right? Even though that goes against everything he said. But I think that's the mindset is they're setting it up to where, obviously, if Scoot's on the board, they have all, like, if you can't win a trade with that kind of leverage, then you don't deserve to be a GM, in my opinion, because there's no way. With all this talk, I mean, even Blazer fans like want to keep this point guard, right? Because he's so good. And so like if you can't win a trade with that kind of asset on the board, then yeah, it's ridiculous. But I think they're trying to cover their bases. So if Scoot goes 2, that they could still be in the conversation like, oh, you have to trade up to 3 because we could take him in or we could take Miller. Like, you never know. And that's why the whole four-person draft versus 3 makes sense, is because Portland doesn't want to then feel like a team could just trade with Houston to get the guy they want if they know who we're taking. Because, like you just mentioned at the top of the show, Houston might be a team willing to trade out. So if they are a team willing to trade out and Portland's sitting there wanting like a min, and they were hoping that Houston wanted to trade up for Scoot or something, and that's no longer an option, then, yeah, I could definitely see Portland trying to leverage that into the teams that maybe wouldn't mind either one or would take Amen over Miller.
Yeah. Eric Olson, I was going to read his comment. I lost it. Oh, he said Amen is less NBA ready. I feel like people view Amen as not NBA ready too much. Like, yes, he's a little bit more raw as a prospect, like Brandon Miller. It's clear cut. Oh, he's going to come in, he's going to knock down threes, play some defense, and then I don't know if the off the dribble scoring, slashing will be like good year 1, but that's the upside with a Brandon Miller. But I mean, we did not view Shaedon Sharpe as NBA ready at all. And I watched back the draft stream from last year, and it was like, Sharpe's going to be a year or 2 away. And now we're talking about him like, oh, he could start next year for a team trying to contend if we pull the right trade. Right? So,
for the record, I still want him to be off the bench as like the number 1 bench off the 6 man, like, but yeah.
Yeah, 30 minutes a game can still have a similar impact, but not as much pressure as he would have in the starting lineup. Like, yeah, it makes sense. But he like had a solid rookie year. He had a rookie year that outpaced my expectations, and I was high on him. So I think when we talk about, he's not NBA ready, I think he'd be ready to play 20 minutes a game day 1 for a team that could win games. Because I think his defense is going to be good enough to be at least average. He needs to clean up some things, but he has the tools, and when he's locked in, he's freaking good. Yeah. And I think his playmaking, ball handling, quickness, athleticism will translate. And I think just like you saw it with Sharpe was just able to make things happen because of his athleticism and have an impact that way. I think Amen will be the same exact way. So I don't view Amen as not ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, the Sharpe thing is kind of weird because he got off to such a hot start shooting the ball, so he almost had to be respected, and then he learned that he could use that to cut and get lobs and stuff. But then he struggled to shoot the ball. Some of that might have been he hurt his finger, but decided to play through it. I think he only missed like 1 game and then played most of the rest of the games through that stretch. And so some of that might have just been his finger, but when he started missing shots, he was almost unplayable for a while. And then he started hitting shots again, obviously, and then started looking way different at the end of the year after a whole season of practicing with the team and getting his feet wet and stuff. And then he looked like a legit star player at the end of the season for 10 games. So I think a little bit of that was just he started hitting shots, which, one, when you're a young player, it breeds confidence. And two, I think he led all rookies in catch and shoot 3-point percentage and stuff. And that gives you some gravity. And when you use your athleticism well as a cutter, I think that just kind of opened up the game for him in ways that they weren't expecting him to hit shots like that early in the season. And then he kind of took off. So I think, but that's going back to men. That's a men's biggest flaw, right? Is I don't think you can be counted on to be a shooter. So it's good if he has that slashing athleticism defense right away. I agree with you there.
Yeah,
he could definitely pull a role, but I just don't know if he'll have that same impact immediately if he's not hitting shots, which he very could. Well, he could hit shots, and this is all a mute conversation, but
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I think the things that were holding Sharpe back from being impactful if he wasn't hitting shots was his ball handling wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I have no worries with him in there. Sharpe's first step wasn't good enough, mixed with his ball handling. I have absolutely no worries with the men there because his first step is insane. Okay. He wasn't making reads fast enough offensively with the ball. Like, he was a turnover machine, just wasn't processing the game. The speed of the game was bothering him. I don't have worries with a men there. I think a men processes things extremely fast. And then defensively, I think a men is more NBA ready than Sharpe was. I think a men is quicker laterally and just has better instincts on that end. So, like all the reasons that caused Sharpe to just be impactful if he was making shots, like weaknesses of his, I'm not as worried about with a men. And yeah, the shot's not there, but I think all those areas, and there's a lot of strengths that a men has that he'll be able to bring to a game and change a game with.
Yeah, well, two things. One, I think teams are just going to segue off him, so I think his athleticism and first step will be negated a little bit, at least initially, until he proves that he can hit a shot. But go ahead. You want to say something to that?
Well, I'm just going to say, like, if teams sag way off him, he cuts, catches the ball 10 feet from the rim, and dunks on someone.
I'm just saying, like, when he gets the ball, they'll just back off so he can't blow by him. They'll just treat him like he's Giannis or something and make him prove.
Yeah, that's possible. I just think until he becomes a solid enough shooter, you gotta just have him playing on the break.
Yeah,
and that would kind of be a bench identity, right? Like, the bench is going to speed things up and play on the break. Especially, you stagger Sharpe if you have a lineup with Sharpe comes off the bench, Ant is staggered with the bench, and you got Amen. Just those guys play in transition. And Sharpe and Amen just feed off each other in transition. But then the half court, I think it comes down to being able to improve his floater, right? Like, being able to attack into that space and hit a floater over a defender. But then also, he is shifty and creative with his footwork. I still think he'll be able to find ways to get to the rim. Even if his defender just backs all the way off, he'll be able to attack that.
I think he will eventually, but a lot of players struggle with that earlier in their career against the better, more physical defenses of the NBA.
Yeah, he'll have struggles for sure. He'll have struggles for sure. I just think he'll be able to come in and have an impact. I think some of it will be usage right away, but I mean, our starting small forward was scared to shoot last year, and teams would back off on him anyways. You know, like why can't he be our Josh Hart? Year one, year two, because I think he can be similar defensively pretty soon, and Sharpe's playmaking was huge. Yeah,
that also became a problem after a while, though.
Yeah, but what we always say, Hart's the perfect guy for the bench. Right. If a man is a good bench player year one with the upside to become, I think, a superstar if he can figure out how to shoot and just add strength, I think he can become a legitimate superstar. If he's that year one, that's NBA ready, that's ready to play. And he could have an impact and be the backup three and potentially help out defensively and give that bench some needed playmaking because, Ant needed help last year with playmaking. Hopefully Sharpe will continue some of the evolution he showed at the end of last season so he can help with that. But that was a big problem all year last year was you don't have enough guys that can put pressure on the rim. You don't have enough guys that can handle the ball, create, attack. So if you have a men with Sharpe with Ant, I already think it's an improvement.
Yeah. And then the second thing I want to say is I they have to find a way to get him at the point of attack on defense because honestly, he's terrible off ball defense. He falls asleep all the time. He's lazy and stuff. So you got to get him on the ball. And if we saw or we heard from Chauncey last year, all the talk about why isn't Sharpe playing more minutes? Why isn't he playing more? And he kept saying, oh, he's missing assignments on defense, right? He's not in the right spots on defense. And so if they're running like zones and they don't have Sharpe or if they don't have a man on the ball every time, basically, that could become a problem on defense. Where the same situation we saw with Sharpe last year with missing a lot of assignments off ball.
Yeah, I will say this. There was an interview I listened to maybe a few months ago from a man, and he was asked, like, so when you get to the next level, what's some things you have to improve? And he said, basically, like, he has to become a better role player, and that means becoming better off the ball defensively because he has, too many lapses, basically just admitted to it and said that's something he definitely needs to get better at and pay more attention to. And, like, I like that he has that awareness, or at least that's been drilled into him, because that's the start. Like CJ in the past was like, I think I'm a good defender. I'm paraphrasing, but basically, like, he thought he was a good defensive player. And it's like, if you're not a good defender, but you can't even admit that you're not a good defender, how do you ever expect that player to get better?
Right.
So I like that's a start. Supposedly great work ethic. Like, he'll struggle with that, but I'm hopeful that he can become solid off the ball defensively. But with what the Blazers need is an on-ball point of attack defender. I mean, hopefully a men can be a positive there. Eric Olson says, Tori, I just think it's hard to have as much confidence in a man based on the competition he played in. Man, I am never going to care about the competition somebody played in the year before they came into the draft, because Dame played against Weber State players and people said he's not gonna be ready. It's going to take him time to adjust to the NBA because he doesn't play against guys this good and this and that. And he came in and was unanimous rookie of the year. So you look at, Simons wasn't ready to play year one, but he played against high school players. Shaedon Sharpe had good moments his rookie year, and he played against high schoolers. So I'm not going to worry about competition. I'm just going to worry about the traits that players show themselves. And you can trust certain things a little bit more if it comes against better competition, but with the men, I think it just jumps off the page as obvious. And I think you get him, a guy like a men and even a Sar in the NBA where they have more space, they have more shooters around them, and it might not be a problem, that could be a benefit actually, compared to, playing at a lower level with a more packed paint and defenses that just loaded up on them for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Anford is playing at basically a high school, right? So it wasn't exactly the same. Lots of players play international basketball and instead of, I know it wasn't the highest level international basketball, but, it's just good to have whether it's the G League or like Scoot or playing in the NBL like LaMelo did. It's just good to run a team and have that be, you be the man and run that offense and stuff. So I do agree with you that I'm not as worried about competition level. There might be a little bit more of adjustment to the NBA because of it, but like you said, some of these players, when we're talking about high-end prospects, are just so good. I don't think it really matters that much once they get into your program. They'll have summer league, they'll have training camp, and all that stuff to get ready.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks for the donations.
Oh, we had one from Colonel Pancakes. What's up, Colonel Pancakes? Thank you for the $10 dono. Says, I think people don't take into account that Amen is from Oakland and Dame could be fine with that. Use the pick for Amen if Scoot doesn't fall. Unlock our first and make a trade for a Siakam plus assets. Thank you for the $10 dono. Maybe Dame has a little bit more love for Amen because he's from Oakland, but supposedly they hadn't met before this. And Dame loves Portland, but he might be willing to, ask out if they draft somebody with the third pick. So I don't think Amen being from Oakland is necessarily going to factor into Dame's decision.
Yeah, I don't think that matters either. But the hope is if they decide to keep the pick, I mean, it's crazy that we're even talking about this, but the hope is just that, much like last year, you can convince Dame. I think you got to make another big move on top of that. So, like he says, unlock our first to make a trade for Siakam. Like if we keep the pick and get Siakam, like maybe Dame's fine, but I don't see a way to get him without the third pick either.
Yeah, I mean the one guy to hope for, I think, in that scenario would be OG.
Yeah, but Toronto's also, yeah, I don't know if they're coming.
I think OG would cost less than Siakam though. So
yeah,
I mean, but then again, that's assuming Toronto acts sane for once, which isn't a given. So I don't know, but I mean, if you could trade like Nas, Knox, Keon, whatever combination of firsts, open up future first by trading 23. It could be an overpay if it's like 3 firsts, but I still think like 3 future firsts, make sure they're protected with that package is a good deal for Toronto. I think that's a really good deal. If it's a trade like that, then you're going into next season. You have Dame and OG, and he can be your point of attack defender. Your defense is going to be better. And then off the bench, Sharpe and Amen are your backup, guard and small forward. You have those 5 guys playing all the minutes at point guard, shooting guard, small forward. And I think it just works out really well because Amen can be hopefully your second point of attack defender. Amen can be your playmaker with the bench. Sharpe will end up being staggered with Dame and Ant and maybe playing a little bit of 3. Maybe you slide OG up to some minutes at the 4 in small ball lineups. You have some versatility. You have OG and you have the upside of Amen. And if Amen pans out, like I'm telling you guys, he'll be a star if he can figure out how to shoot the 3 ball decently. Like I nobody can be sure of that, but I'm about as sure of that in regards to any player just being solid in a skill. Like if they get solid at this thing, they'll be a star. I would be shocked if a men became an okay 3-point shooter, 34-35%, and wasn't a star. I'd be shocked. So you bank on that upside and you just see how that goes. I mean, the Blazers last offseason added Sharpe and Grant. If you add Amen and OG, sure, you don't have your future first, but you just see where that takes you. Because I think that is a team that could potentially contend for home court because you fix some of the defensive issues. You just need to get a better backup 4 and 5 than the Blazers had last year. I just think it's funny that this team was close to home court advantage, dealing with a bunch of injuries last year, and their whole plan coming into the season was like, yeah, we're going to win with Justice Winslow and Drew Eubanks as our backup front court.
Well, yeah, that's the point I was going to make. So Dame was like, okay, you're going to draft Sharpe. That's fine. We couldn't get a trade done with the 7th pick, but now get to work and get me a good team, right? And that's
yeah.
And so they re-signed some of their own guys, which Dame wanted. That was fine. But then their moves after the draft, after telling Dame, okay, we're going to keep the pick, and him being like, okay, so give me some help, were Gary Payton, who was hurt and needed core surgery, and I still don't understand why none of our media has asked Joe the question as to why, when you've already dealt with Nas and Dame needing the core surgery and the effects that had on their body, why on earth would you sign a player that you knew needed that surgery? And if you didn't know that, how could you not have done a physical with the amount of injuries Gary Payton had in the playoffs last year? So that just drives me crazy. And then you signed Drew Eubanks to be the backup. And every single one of us going into last season was like, we don't have a backup center. Like we need a legit center, right? And then like some of you even thought we needed a starting center, right? And yeah, you can agree with that or not, but we need 2 legitimate centers on this team, and everyone, even the people who are big Eubanks fanatics now, thought going into last season we needed another center. And Drew should have been the 3rd center, and that would have been fine. But we knew Nurk was going to miss games. We knew we were going to have problems with size in certain situations and in our bench lineup and stuff like that. And we did nothing to address those. during the season. So like when those problems became evident, we did nothing to address them. When we had injuries, we did nothing to address the depth and those issues. We did nothing during the season to bring in a shooter off the bench. In fact, we got worse shooters at the trade deadline, like Dybul and Reddish, and hoping that they become good shooters somehow because they're playing in Portland or something. Like, I don't know. Like we didn't address any of those. And that's the frustrating part to me, is if they would have just done some of those things, this team, yes, we might not be talking about the third pick right now, but then we're also not talking about Dame wanting to possibly leave because they're trying to convince him to do the same thing again that they convinced him to do last year and failed to even give him competent players to build a bench. So that's what bugs me is the fact that not that they want to maybe convince him to keep the pick, but that they actually are trying to convince him that they'll be different this year when if tax is an issue, like if someone gets hurt and they can't sign anyone because Jody doesn't want to pay more tax or whatever, or go into the tax if they somehow duck it, like that's going to be issues that we've dealt with these last couple of years and is the reason why we've gone through these stretches where we look really good when we're healthy, and then someone gets hurt or someone struggles shooting and we have no one to step up in their place. And we struggle for weeks at a time and fall out of home court advantage back into the play-in range. And then we make bad trades at the trade deadline, and all of a sudden we find ourselves in 13th or whatever. So like this, it's got to be better. Cronin has to be better. If he keeps this pick, he has to deliver the perfect role players around him. And I don't know how that's really possible, considering he chose like second round picks and stuff like that over contracts that could have possibly gotten those deals done. So like, I mean, maybe he can, if you're keeping the pick, I think you have to call Washington. You get DeLon Wright and Gafford. It's the same type of situation I just talked about. They're gonna want to rebuild. They're not gonna want to pay all these players. So you could probably get them for basically free just to solve their cap issue right now. And so like you add depth that way, and then you have to hit on a signing in free agency and maybe another trade somewhere else. But that's a lot to ask, is to bring in like 3 or 4 perfect players for that team if you keep the pick. So even if he does have good intentions of building the team around an Amen Thompson or Brandon Miller or whatever, like I just don't understand how he thinks he's going to accomplish that all with the assets he has.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's funny is all that's true, but I was higher on Drew Eubanks entering last season than I am now. I actually soured on him during the season.
But we all but during that he got signed, right? And I said he was promised to be our backup center, right? Mm-hmm. And you said no, that's BS. There's no way, right? Like
I don't think I said no way. I think
no, you said
I think it was like
there's no way they promised him that, right? Like
there's no way they're that dumb to promise him,
right? But that ended up being the case, right?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. It was more so tongue in cheek because here's the thing. Let me just say this before you go on. I would never put something past Joe Cronin that's bad. Like, you guys know I've criticized him. Like, I'm not as high on him, but I haven't been criticizing him lately because this offseason is just true litmus test, in my opinion. Now, he might get screwed out of something that's not his own doing, but when you put yourself in this position where you don't have many assets because you don't get enough for Norm Powell, you don't get enough for Robert Covington, and then you trade away Josh Hart, and you're valuing getting back Matisse Thybulle and Cam Reddish, etc. Like, Joe's put himself in this position, so even if things don't go his way, it is still kind of his own doing. But I haven't been criticizing him because this offseason is a true litmus test. But I still wouldn't put anything past him that's terrible because it wouldn't surprise me at this point. So, like in that situation, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I don't see myself thinking there's no way Joe Cronin could do something that bad because I've always thought of things as like, oh, there's definitely a chance Cronin could do something ridiculous like that. I mean, the GP2 signing looks ridiculous after the fact. So, Yeah, just here's the thing. You don't give promises for rotation spots for players that are that mediocre on the NBA level. No offense to Drew Eubanks, but he's a mediocre NBA player. It's just what it is. A lot of people would love to be that, but that's what he is. You don't give promises to that guys like that.
Yeah, it's not even Drew's fault. Like Drew was fine for what he was last year. Like it wasn't his fault. Like he shouldn't have been put in some of those positions where he was starting and doing that. And that's exactly why he should have been the third string and not the backup to where Nurk was hurt and stuff. But like what you just said, you wouldn't put it past Cronin, right? I'm telling you right now, I would not be surprised if we're talking about like on July 10th about how the only two setters on our roster are Drew Eubanks and Yusuf Nurkic, right? Like that's how crazy it is, right?
Yep. I mean, I wouldn't be. Shoot, at this point, I feel like if I had to bet on anybody being the backup center next year, I would bet on Drew Eubanks. If I had to bet on someone. Now, I'm hopeful that like the rest of the field is more likely to get somebody out of the rest of the potential backup center options than Drew Eubanks. But if I had to bet on someone specifically, dude, like. I mean, I don't know. That's one of the biggest questions that nobody's talking about right now because everybody's focused on the third pick. But if they're trying to win next year, who's the backup 4 and 5? Mm-hmm. That's such a huge question. And how do they fill it? Because there's a guy that has a decent chance of being available at 23 that I would be willing to have as our backup 4 next year. He has a super long name, an awesome name, a hyphen in his first name, Eric. It's not Karl Anthony Towns. Olivier Maxence Prosper is a guy I really like. Is a guy that I think will be able to knock down threes at a decent enough clip and then very versatile defensively and athletic and lengthy at the backup 4 next year. Like, people think you can't get a good role player with a 23rd overall pick. That's the type of guy that I could see coming in and being a good defensive rookie that knocks down shots and is in the rotation on a good team.
Yeah, I still like a couple players, but I think there's going to be some really good players at 23. So I think that's a bit of a reach there, even though he's getting hype in that range now.
I have him higher on my board than that right now.
I still have him as a second-round pick.
I have him higher than 23 on my board. He's one of the guys I like. Because I think he'll have a chance to guard 1 through 5, and finding a guy with athleticism and length like that can guard guards and be versatile, get through screens, like it's really hard to find versatile defenders like that, so I really value that. And I think you've seen some great defensive players get underdrafted in previous years, like Jaden McDaniels. There was questions about him defensively, but he's ended up becoming really good defensively. He was drafted like 28th. Nick Claxton was drafted a little too low. I think there's a legitimate chance that Prosper is the next guy who's like borderline all defensive team caliber that gets drafted too low.
Yeah.
Just a gut feeling.
Yeah. I wouldn't I'm not super high on this player, and I think 23 is still a little high too, but I think Clowney could be one of those guys too.
Yeah.
Athletic 4 or 5 type that can maybe stretch out his game to 3-point range on offense and guard multiple positions on defense.
Yeah. I have Prosper higher because I trust Prosper to guard guards better.
Yeah.
And I trust his jumper a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Clowney could come into the league shooting better than Prosper, and you know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of a crapshoot at that range, but I have some confidence in both those areas for Prosper.
Yeah. Dolan Dye says I like Chris Murray. I do think he's solid at that range, too, if we're trying to win.
Yeah. I just rather go with like the versatile defender and athlete, you know. It's so hard to find those guys. Like I talked on Twitter today about why the Blazers were so much better defensively with Aminu and Harkless than they would be with Siakam and Grant, and it's not because Siakam and Grant are bad defenders, it's just because Harkless and Aminu were good in so many different situations against different types of players. They were versatile. They really had no weaknesses. So for me, it's like, is there a defender in this draft that you could get with 23 that from day one could be close to that type of defender?
Yeah.
Because if so, you can play that dude minutes with how bad we need that type of defender.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's Clowney. Maybe it's Prosper. I would go with both those guys over Chris Murray because I trust them to be that versatile defender a little bit more than Chris Murray.
I'm still praying it's Leonard Miller, but
Leonard Miller would be awesome too.
I don't think he's fallen to 23, but
yeah, I've seen him start to slip down some draft boards lately, though.
I don't get it, man. He was rising up boards last year and then decided to play in the G League instead of come out and then was dominant at times towards the end of the season, and then that hurt his draft stock. I don't know.
Yeah.
Got a couple of donuts.
He should go top 20. Yeah, let me catch up on donuts. Shout out Jason Holly, $10 donut. Says, long overdue dono. Great to meet you at the lottery party. I think we should all get t-shirts that says, that's not my route. Take a group pic and send it to Cronin and Allen. Thank you, Jason Holly, for the $10 dono. Yeah, it was good to meet you, man.
Yeah, Jason, nice to meet you as well. I sent you a message on Twitter. You probably don't check it very often, but yeah, thanks for coming out.
And then shout out to Pim with the $50 dono. Biggest dono we've gotten in a while. Thank you, Pim. Appreciate you. Says, thanks for being solid dudes over the years. You guys taught me a lot about the game. Would you trade for Zion, or would it be too much to trade for him to match salary, or is it too much of a risk? I don't think it's necessarily too much of a risk, but also I probably wouldn't do it because of how big of a risk it is. You know what I mean? I understand why people would take that risk.
Yeah.
Because if he got healthy, he could be a top 10 player. How often do you get the chance to trade for one of those guys? I get it. I have no problems with anyone that says they would make a play for Zion, unless it's trading Dame for him, right?
Yeah.
I understand it. At the same time, the dude has played only, out of the 4 years he's been in the league, he's only played more than 29 games once, and doesn't seem like he's all the way dedicated to basketball. That's just kind of my own interpretation, and it doesn't seem like he's particularly close with his teammates. There's just a lot of red flags there, a lot of problems, and if it doesn't pan out, if he's been what he's been in New Orleans, which is never available, the Blazers are basically screwed. So it's really tough.
Yeah, well, now there's this whole thing about him and Ingram and the trainers for New Orleans clearing both of them weeks before they ended up playing in Ingram's case, or not playing at all in Zion's case. And then Zion had those weird comments during the play-in about how he was 100%, but Zion doesn't feel like playing yet, or not. Zion's not ready to play yet. And it's I'm out on those kind of guys.
I don't want another GP2, man.
Yeah, you said it. That's exactly what I've been saying to anyone who's asked me this question. I get it. You want to take a risk on Zion. I would get behind it if it happened. I would hope heck he becomes healthy. But for me, I just think it's to rely on a player like that who you don't know if he is healthy, if he's even going to be interested in being that dominant player, or if he cares at all about being that top 10 player you meant, or if that means anything to him, if his legacy means anything, or what, or if he just likes the fame of being a basketball player. Obviously he uses that to his advantage for scoping out women, right? But yeah, it's just so, yeah, to me it's just the injury thing and his body frame, his lack of dedication to making that lighter, making his body lighter to avoid maybe some of these injuries. Just to me, those kind of players I don't like basically trading as much as we'd have to trade the third pick and Anthony, and we'd still have to include another salary, I think, to match. So I just, for me, I would rather just take my chances with either the third pick or the Trey Murphy, Herb Jones route, or, solid role players that I think could instantly provide a spark and you know what you're getting versus possibly getting nothing out of this trade, and then you get nothing out of the third pick, and you're stuck with a max contract Brandon Roy situation where it's just like a dead weight on our salary. And with Roy, at least we got the amnesty clause to get rid of it against the cap at least, but there's no out in this new CBA, so you're stuck with Zion for 5 more years because this contract doesn't take into effect until this next season. So I just think for me, it's just too big of a risk. But if it were to happen, I would be stoked to have Zion and hope like heck he can prove all this wrong and be that great player he's been when he's played, because he's unstoppable on offense. I mean, he doesn't help our defense though, and that's part of the problem as well. But like the guys between Dame and Zion, I mean, those are two of the most efficient and top offensive analytic guys in the league. So that offense would be crazy. But I would probably pass if it was ultimately my decision.
Yeah, Dro asked about if we're okay with Brandon Ingram. We talked about that a lot on the last stream, and then I also dropped a video talking about it on the main channel. So if you want like our true in-depth thoughts on that, then watch that stream or that video. Shout out Dennis Fan, $2 dono, says, would you rather have Spicy P or Brandon Ingram on the Blazers? 50-50 for me. Probably Siakam if you forced me to choose, but it's pretty close. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, if it was just like you could choose one of these two players, same trade package, I'm taking Siakam, I think. I just think he's a better overall player. Even though it's a little bit clunky fit with Jeremy, you could make it work maybe. But I also think 3 and like Anthony is too much for Ingram, so we should be able to get something else back in that trade. So like if we got Ingram and Herb and 14 or something for Anthony,
I'd rather do that.
Yeah, I'd rather do that. So it just kind of depends on what the package is. But if it's just straight up, I'm probably taking Siakam. But either way, some of these max contract guys, it's tough with how much we have to give up just to match a contract to get them in if they're not a center. So, it's like you can't trade Nurk in those situations unless you have a plan to get another center somehow. So you're having to trade Anthony in the third pick, and it's just, to me, that's a lot to give up.
Do you want to do a mock draft? We haven't done one of those in a while.
Sure.
Chad, do you want that? I will have a mock draft with trades tomorrow.
Let's just do first round, though.
We could run through a second round. I feel like we should talk about second round prospects. Yeah. We haven't talked about second round prospects enough, and I'm more prepared to than the last time we did a mock draft. We can do it fast. If that's what they want. If that's what chat wants.
Lots of people are saying yes.
Okay. Yeah, because at least up to 40-ish, there's a lot of guys I like. At 40, it kind of drops off hard, so hopefully some of them fall to 43. I'm kind of bummed that Klintman dropped out because I think he was going before 43, and like I was fine to let a team take him before 43 with the hope that somebody would fall to us. All right, let me get this. Did I have I thought I had a draft slide somewhere. Maybe not. I thought I did.
Reese, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I don't really like to let other people influence my scouting until after the draft, so I probably won't read it too in depth until later. Liam Best with Australian $5 dono. Thank you, Liam. Zion isn't a home run swing. It's a home run swing in the bottom of the ninth of Game 7 in the World Series with 2 outs. Excited for more national TV games. Yeah, that it is.
A home run swing that we strike out on, or a home run swing that we
I don't know. That's what baseball's become, right?
Yeah.
Homer.
Yeah.
and your Mariners
not
don't
for the
hit many.
Mariners, though. No,
well,
not
they
for the
strike out a lot. They have the strikeout part down.
Oh, God. All right, let's just do this draft because I don't want to talk about the freaking Mariners that are mediocre again. 500, sick. We're like fourth in the division. The only team we're better than is the A's, but they're catching us because they've won 7 in a row somehow. All right, start the draft. We should. Okay, here's what we should do. I'll do a random, or I'll flip a coin. I got coins here. Okay, if it's heads, I'll be odds. If it's tails, I'll be evens. It's heads, so I'll be odds.
Okay.
And I say we do it 50-50 between what we would pick and what we think the team would pick.
50-50? Okay.
50-50. Like, let's say you were in the front office and the GM trusted you a bit. And so, like, you were allowed to give your pitch on a guy.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, ultimately he gets the final say.
Okay.
So 50-50. So I'm going Wemby number 1, obviously. I would try and pitch them on Drew Timme, but I think I'd get overridden. So Wemby number 1. Number 2, you got Charlotte. So you're
gonna take Drew Timme at 3 then?
Yeah, because it would work with Cronin.
Okay, hold on. I'm still setting up my folder. All right, Victor got drafted 1.
Let me put up chat on my phone.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't see how if you have the second pick in this draft how you cannot take Scoot Henderson. So I'm taking Scoot 2.
Okay, Scoot 2.
And I'll mark your pick already for 3.
3. Hoop Intellect did a mock draft today, and he had a men going 3. So I liked it. It's not just me. I've seen
that's why you like him.
Go to men 3. Yes, just because of him. Because he's the GOAT. All right, a men 3. So 4, Houston, Eric.
All right, so Houston, I think. I mean, this is a tough sell a little bit with the issues that this team already has, but I think Ime could get the best out of Brandon Miller, and I think they're stoked because he fits with Harden and he fits with their young team if they're still rebuilding. So I'm taking Brandon Miller.
Nice. 5 is tough with Detroit because Asar is next up on my big board, but I don't really like his fit there when you have Ivy and Cunningham. I think they could use some defense, but I think they're dead set on Cam Whitmore. Since this is 50-50, I think it ends up being Cam. So I'm going Cam at 5. At 6, Orlando.
All right.
Chat says we should do polls for mock drafts, so Chat has a choice. We'd have to dedicate a whole stream to that because it would take a while.
Yeah. Did you hear the Anthony Black at 4 rumors?
No. I've heard some buzz about how like there's teams that are high on him, but I haven't heard specifically 4.
Yeah.
Although I wouldn't hate it.
I think if I'm Orlando, I have 2 picks. I'm not worrying about fit or whatever. I'm just taking the best player on the board. So I'm taking Asar.
All right. Asar, there we go. 7 is Indiana.
Got 2 perfect fits for them.
Yeah, it's just which one do I want? I like Jarris, actually, which is funny because I took Hendricks in the mock off-season draft over Jarris. I was stuck on this decision in the mock off-season, but if they're keeping Turner and, like, Halliburton's not the strongest dude, like, I think they need a physical presence.
Yeah.
And I like Jarris for that over Hendricks.
I love Jarris going to Indiana. That would be one of my favorite picks if that happens.
Yep. Now here's where we get interesting because you got 8, right? So if we're doing 50-50, which I don't know how we even weigh that, but Washington at 8. They might trade Beal or something, so who knows what their offseason looks like. But what you doing?
Yeah, So what it sounds like from everyone is that they're just going full on rebuild, and they're just gonna tear it all down. They might trade Beal. Looks like instead of opting out and going into a longer contract, Porzingis is just going to be on the books for one more year, probably get traded too. Looks like they might not even re-sign Kuz at this rate. So I am just going to go. I mean, if it were me, I would try to talk them into taking. I as much as I have Taylor Hendricks on the board as my top player right now, but I don't think he really makes a ton of sense as like a high upside rebuild guy. So I would try like heck to convince them to take Jalen Hood-Schifino. But ultimately, I think they take Anthony Black here.
Anthony Black. All right. So 9 Utah. I also think they go upside. And I think they could go point guard. And I think Kobe Buffkin has as much upside as anyone left in the draft. And we've heard rumors about him potentially going as high as 8. I think that talk has died down a little bit. But that would be my choice at 9. I think that's an upside pick as well. I'm going to go Buffkin at 9 for Utah.
All right.
I think there's a chance that they could look at him.
Well, if I'm Dallas, I'm freaking stoked right now, and I'm running, sprinting. Mark Cuban's gonna have a heart attack with how fast he's gonna sprint to call this one in. Taylor Hendricks is just, I think he's a perfect fit with Luka, guy who can defend, shoot the three, maybe even better than Dorian Finney-Smith did for them, so he could just be like an upgrade for them, especially if they keep Kyrie. So,
Taylor I think it'll be Hendricks or Lively there for them. Like if Hendricks is off the board and they keep the pick, I think it'll be Lively. But if Hendricks is there, I think they take that and run to the bank. All right, so now this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. Orlando at 11, they took a SAR. I'm gonna I think Lively could make some sense for them. I know they got Wendell Carter Jr. I know they got Bol, but I feel like this could be a sneaky team to go Lively. Ultimately, I think they go Grady Dick. I'll go Grady Dick. I'm not high on Grady Dick, but I think they will absolutely go Grady Dick if he's there at 11, just because that's what they need, especially if they draft a SAR at 6. So I'm going to go Grady Dick for 11 for Orlando. Yep. It does make sense from a fit standpoint. I am just not high on him. So I'd be campaigning for other guys, but I think they for sure go him.
Got that Suggs Dick combo.
Yep. That's the one positive.
Lucas Divas with the 22 ran, don't know. I'm thinking that Scoot will be selected in the second pick. Will Charlotte stay with him or trade with the Pelicans? Third pick, Portland select Brandon Miller. 23rd pick, select Chris Murray or Clowney. Free agency trades for center and power forward. Somewhat realistic. Thanks for the dono, Lucas.
Yep, thanks for the dono. I wouldn't be a fan of those picks, like both those picks together, but maybe they might be the right picks. I don't know. Thank you for the dono. All right, 12 OKC.
I think this is where some of these promises come into play. So even if I try to convince someone differently, I think I think they're going to go with Koulibaly here, which I don't think is a bad pick, but yeah.
Yeah, he's risen. 13 Toronto. So, I think Toronto might be the team. I think a team gave Case and Wallace a promise, and I think Toronto is the team that did. And also, I kind of like Case and Wallace for them to be their Fred VanVleet replacement, regardless if they go the rebuild route or not. So, Case and Wallace, 13, Toronto. Reese says, think Toronto goes Lively. I think it's possible. I think they bring Pirtle back. I don't know how much that factor into a decision to take Lively, but I think I think they're the team that gave Case and Wallace a promise.
He might have been talking about OKC too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
OKC makes sense for Lively too.
Yeah, I think they go a number of different directions, but Jackson Hayes is a free agent. Don't know if they're bringing him back. Valanciunas is on the last year of his contract. So I think they just go with Lively. It's a good pick for them.
Yeah. I think this is the floor for Lively for what it's worth at this point. All right, 15, Atlanta. John Collins, his whole future's up in the air. They have some decent depth at a lot. His past, present, and future is up in the air. He's still there.
I'm not believing a single John Collins rumor ever again.
Well, I think he's bad enough now that they're like maybe just getting rid of him for whatever. Yeah. You know, like, oh, we screwed up not selling high on him earlier. I don't know. I mean, but he's regressed and overpaid. Like, the problem is with Atlanta is they have depth at a lot of positions. But I do like Leonard Miller for them. And that's who I'm going to go with. Could be the potential long-term starting four. If they move off Capella, could play some 5 with a Kongwu. I like Leonard Miller for them.
Okay.
All right, 16, Utah. Your Utah Jazz took Kobe Buffkin with the 9th pick.
Well, this kind of messes up what I would do for them because
yeah,
I mean, they do need as many guards as possible. I think Buffkin and Hutchafino would be. I mean, you got your backcourt of the future, right? So I'm just going to take best player on the board if I'm Utah and take Hutchafino.
Yeah, that's what I like about Buffkin is I think he might have the size to guard 2s, like all 2s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he'll be a guy that can play on or off the ball to a high level. Like, that's why I'm high on him. And then finishes really well. So, like, Hutchafino also has some size. And I think both those guys, you wouldn't even have to necessarily designate one as the point.
Yeah.
Both are just kind of like combo guards with enough size to guard 1s and 2s. And they just coexist, you know? Like, I think they could fit. Yeah. 17, Lakers. The Lakers need a shooter. I think it's very obvious that it's just a shooter here. Unless, I mean, teams always do random stuff, but you got Hawkins. You got Howard. I think they go with one of those two. I just feel like it'll be somebody with a little bit more. I feel like they'll go with Howard because he has a little more size. And I'm okay with that, with them.
Yeah.
18,
I
Miami.
like that for them. I mean, yeah. Miami also kind of needs shooting. So I can maybe see Hawkins here. Man, there's a lot of players they could go with. I think maybe they realize they maybe need a little bit more creation over shooting. So I think even though a lot of people are down on him right now, I still think Miami would be a good spot for Nick Smith Jr. So I'm going to take him.
Alrighty. Yeah. With Nick Smith upside, it's just how much of it last year was injuries.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of hard to tell with him, but as an upside pick and potential long-term starting point for Lowry, I love it. Okay, 19. I'm going to go with a guy that probably surprises people, but I think could go as high as 19 because he'd be an amazing fit in their system and also help them with something that they struggle with, which is perimeter defense. I'm going to go... I think this dude will be a top 20 player from this draft. I'm going to go with Andre Jackson. in Golden State.
Be their new Iguodala.
Yeah, I love him there. I absolutely love him there. Especially if they look to move off Draymond. He's smaller, a little smaller than Draymond, obviously, but could kind of potentially play the same role. I have a top 20 grade on Andre Jackson. Like, I love Andre Jackson. If he ends up in the right situation, I'm just praying that he doesn't fall to 37 and Denver gets him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just scary to me. Yeah. 20, you got Houston.
All right, so Houston.
Don't scroll up high. You can't see players. Okay, here. Or maybe here. I'll make it smaller then. I got you. Chat. Let's see. How can I do this?
I think, Houston's tough because so they got Brandon Miller. They already have guards in Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. They have forwards like Eason and Jabari Smith and Şengün. So really, I think it's just take the best player on the board, and so I think I'm going to take Keontae George here.
All right. He seems like a guy who could slide and then be a steal.
Yeah.
Keontae George, 20. All right, 21 is Brooklyn. I'm just going to go for... I can't take the vape god. I was going to go for upside, but I'm not going for the vape pens. I don't know. I think I'm going to go best player left on the board and then upside. I'm going to go Jordan Hawkins at 21. He can replace Seth Curry long term. And then 22. I like Omax here, but they don't need him.
Why are you taking 22?
Oh, you're 22. I was just thinking I'm Brooklyn now, and I was thinking about both. All right, go ahead.
All right, thanks.
All right, I took Hawkins at 21.
All right.
Made your decision a little harder.
Well, I think they have a lot of wings, so they can maybe go point guard if they don't think Dinwiddie is the answer. But I do think they could use some size up front too, so I'm going to take Clowney.
All right, Clowney at 22 for Brooklyn. That means I'm 23rd to Portland. I was wondering who you're going to take with Portland. I mean, I talked about him earlier. I'm taking Prosper here at 23.
All right. He's now in the first round in terms of ESPN.
Yeah. He's risen. I think he could be the backup forward defensively, just if he can knock down enough shots. And he was an okay shooter. Form's not bad. His form's okay. Like, he's kind of the guy I'm eyeballing at 23 right now.
Yeah.
So.
James D with a $5 donation. Thank you so much, James. Just tossing some love your way. Appreciate you guys and what you do. Well, thank you, James. I appreciate the donation and the love. Thank you.
Eric Olson says, you always sleep on Sensabaugh. I mean, the problem is he's horrible defensively. He wouldn't make any sense for the Blazers.
So the Kings, do they pair Chris with his brother here? That'd be an interesting pick for them.
Yeah.
I could see them doing that. Keegan was pretty good last year for them. I think Sensabaugh does make some sense for them, but they don't have any defense. I also think they could go upside with Derek. But yeah, I'm gonna convince them that Chris needs to be there with his brother.
Yeah, I could definitely see them doing this. That would be kind of cool too. All right, 25, Memphis. Oh boy. The question is, how long is Jaw suspended for? Do you draft somebody that can maybe help with the point guard spot? If not, they need shooting. They need a shooter. I mean, there's not much shooting here. sensible, I guess. They have the defensive pieces to put around him. Yeah, I'll go sensible at 25.
Okay.
He's not like a pure shooter, but I'll go with him at 25.
Mm-hmm.
Chase, I was thinking about him. Like that's the ceiling. That's the highest I would take him. I think he would fit there well. 26, Indiana.
All right. So, I mean, Indiana has a pick coming up, or two. They have 29 and 32 still. So,
Yeah.
I don't think they necessarily need to worry about fit or anything. Just they can afford to take some swings on some players. So I think here is probably a situation where they just pick between Repair and Najee. And I'm going to go with Najee just to have another big man prospect.
All right. At 27 is Charlotte. They have 34, 39, and 41 and need defense, especially with drafting Scoot at 2, so I'm going to go Repair. Stash him. Maybe he can help the defense in the long run with that backcourt.
All right.
28 is Utah. Buffkin and Shafino. You got your backcourt.
Yeah, so I'm just going to continue, if I'm there, them to swing on upside. And I'm going to go with Derek Whitehead here, and I think I'm pretty stoked to get him this late.
Yeah, I agree. 29, Indiana. Jarris Walker, James Najee. I don't know why I'm going past 40 because there's a freaking drop off. I think Indiana can swing for some upside. So I'm going to take Maxwell Lewis.
Okay.
30, the Clippers.
I think Clippers, this is a slam dunk for them. Colby Jones, I think he fits really well with them.
Yeah, I like that pick too. For some reason, Podziemski just screams like Clipper to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they drafted Jason Preston.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Those two guys kind of remind me of each other for some reason. 31 is Detroit. Detroit took Cam. I mean, I know they have a lot of bigs, but they also have a decent amount of like okay wings and wing prospects, especially with taking Cam. You got Cade, Cam, Ivy. I'm actually going to go with Vukcevic here. Can be a floor spacing big for them, for those creators. 32, Indiana.
So they've gotten Walker, Najee, Lewis.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to take a shot on Sissoko here.
Oh, yeah, he's still on the board. I like that. He's a guy that could fall that maybe shouldn't. There's going to be someone. 33, Spurs. I mean, they could be looking for their long-term point. Podziemski there could be kind of interesting. That's what I'm going to go with. Podziemski to San Antonio. 34, Charlotte. Henderson, Repair.
All right.
I know what you're thinking right now.
Yeah.
I know exactly. I can read your mind. Sometimes it's funny. Chat, what is Eric thinking right now? Say it in chat. And then you can tell chat what you're
even though I think this is a ridiculous pick for them, I think GG at this point, you got to take him.
Yeah, I see chat do it too.
Yeah.
Nice.
I wasn't even looking at chat, but yeah. I mean, you got to at that point, right?
I mean, I don't know. How many vape pens does he hit per day? You know, if the answer is over 5, I don't know. I don't know if you have to take them there. 35 is Boston. I just don't even. Oh, you know what? Grant Williams is a restricted free agent. Maybe he gets an offer that they don't want to bring him back on, especially with their payroll. They could be looking for a guy that can play the 4 right away, and a guy who's in the Grant Williams mold a little bit, but I think a better athlete. Just kind of solid all-around player. Kobe Brown.
All right. Right. So Orlando got Thompson and Dick.
Yeah, they got. Yeah. Good for them.
I think it's still up in the air. Their guards, even though they have a lot of them. I'm just going to take Marcus Sasser here.
All right. Denver 37. Who's a Denver player? Oh, I like this guy a lot for Denver. I'm going to go with Strother.
All right. Pretty good pick for them.
38 Sacramento took Chris Murray, pair with Keegan.
All right.
Hopefully there's a third one of them.
Yeah. I think obviously they need some defenders too. They're a little thin up front, but there's not really a center that I would take this high.
There's a lot of just wings.
Yeah. So I'm trying to decide between 3 people here, but I think Jordan Walsh's upside on defense, and if he can figure out a shot, I think this is a good spot for him to kind of just come in and focus on the defensive end initially.
I agree. This next team, that's what I would have taken, because Charlotte also makes sense for him. Instead,
I think this is Charlotte's last pick, thankfully. So.
Yeah. Who? I mean, they could go. I think they'd hope that Julian Phillips can shoot the ball better than he showed in college. Was a better shooter in high school. Can play some defense.
Yeah.
So I think that's, kind of the same mold. All right. 40 Denver again.
Denver is up again. So you mentioned like Denver type players. You took Strother.
Yeah.
I also think this guy is, kind of a winning player, and won a title with one of their players that won a title this year. So I'm gonna take Jaylen Wilson.
Jaylen Wilson. I thought you were gonna take the guy who Strother broke his heart and ended his career. Oh, it's Charlotte again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, stash time. Where's Jurassic? There we go. Jurassic.
Does Charlotte ever stash?
I don't know. I mean, if they have 5 picks, so they should.
Yeah.
All right, 42. You got Washington. Anthony Black.
All right. Even though they took a guard already, I think they're just swinging for home runs. So I'm going to take Amari Bailey.
Amari Bailey. All right, here we are at 43 with Portland. Chat, who do you want at 43? Let me know. Right now, I'm looking at 2 guys. I don't know what you said.
That's not who I want. I just thought that's who you're going to pick.
No. I am not picking him. I just looked at his measurements and He has the same standing reach as CJ McCollum, I think. Wasn't CJ McCollum's like 8'3.5"? Because that's what Hawkins is. I don't think chat's going to say either name that I'm thinking about right now, Eric. I don't think they're going to say either name. Of course, we got a Drew Timme. Alex, I don't know how many times I have to say I would not draft Drew Timme to the Portland Trailblazers. I just wouldn't do it. Elizabeth Allen, the Fanspo list, has all the international guys in it. Here's the thing. Like, if I draft an international player, it's because the team needs to stash a pick because they have so many, so it could be any international guy. Like, I need to do more research on the international guys. All right, so Portland took a man and Prosper.
Who went back that we picked? Did we pick someone?
I don't think so. They were just mentioning Klintman and then the international guys.
Yeah.
So I think Klintman was the only non-international guy that went back. Oh, it was Drusik went back. Did he? We can undo it.
That's fine. Like you said,
I undid too. Yeah, I'll take Ivisic instead of Durasic. Okay. So Ivisic 41, and then Bailey was 42. I like that you can undo a couple picks. That's a good feature they added. 43. Since Portland took Amen, who's like a shooting guard small forward type, Prosper is like a small forward power forward type. I'm gonna take a big. I'm gonna take Muhammad. How do you say his last name?
I think it's Guy.
Guy. Yeah, I'm gonna take him. Washington State product, Northwest product. They had him in for a workout last offseason too, if I recall correctly. So I don't know if they have this year. I don't remember. But him, 43, just a big.
All right. 44 back to San Antonio.
Yeah.
This guy kind of screams San Antonio point guard. I don't know if he really makes sense with pods and if they re-sign Trey Jones. But I think having a really solid, smart point guard with Victor, can't have too many of them, so I'm going to take Ben Shepherd.
All right. Memphis, 45, took Sensabaugh. They need shooting.
I did see Arthur Kaluma transfer to Kansas State. That's a good pickup for them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then Noel can't go back, correct?
Don't think so.
It's just always hard to remember COVID year and all that.
Kalbrenner went back to Creighton, but Kaluma didn't. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, and neither did Nemhard, so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to go with shooting because Memphis has a lot of guys at every spot. So I'm going to go with a guy that could be maybe a bit of a three-point specialist, shot over 40% a couple of his years in college. Or I could go Lundy. I was thinking Tyson or Lundy. I'll go Tyson because he has a little bit more size and they took Sensabaugh. All right. 46 Atlanta.
All right. They took Leonard Miller earlier.
Yeah.
I think they're just, even though you said they're going more for winning. I think this guy's being slept on a little bit due to his poor showing at the Combine. But I think he can play, and I think he'd be a good third guard to have there. So I'm going to take Turk Smith.
All right, Lakers took Jet Howard. They could still use some interior depth. They took a shooter with Jet Howard. I think at this point, Trace Jackson Davis, this is like the range he should be in. I think we'll go higher, but I think this is the range he should be in. I'm going to go with him at 47. At 48, you got the Clippers to Colby Jones.
Who'd you take? Sorry, I missed it.
Trace Jackson Davis.
Okay. All right, so the Clippers went with Colby Jones earlier. I mean, there's two names right at the top here of the list. I think they would, both of them kind of fit. But I'm going to keep Hawkes in LA.
All right. Hawkes, Clippers, 48. That's good because I like Keontae Johnson for the Cavs at 49.
That's a good pick for them.
And then 50, OKC took Koulibaly.
All right. Wish I could remove Clintman off here. He's bugging me.
I'm just ignoring him.
Man. I think they had some success going with a player from this conference last year. So I don't think they're afraid to kind of swing a little bit. So I'm going to take Amari Moore from San Jose State.
All right. Omari Moore. San Jose State. Okay. I'm going to go with... This is the third pick for Brooklyn. They could swing for upside. They have a lot of depth pieces, so they could look for a stash guy, maybe a stash guy with a little bit of upside. I'm going to go with Vincent Valerio Bodon. Assuming he didn't go back. $52 is Phoenix. Who's the guy that would have to come in and play right away?
Well, I think Amodi would be interesting for them.
KD Jr.
I don't know if he quite fits what they need, though. I'm not really liking how this board played out for them. But
not many good options here whatsoever.
I think I'm just gonna take Seth Lundy here. Maybe add some shooting.
Could replace the Shamet role.
Yeah.
They could get off Shamet, save some money, replace him with Lundy. All right. 53 is Minnesota. I mean, they could use a long-term point guard, I guess, because they don't really have one. Mike Miles feels like one of those guys that could maybe become a good backup point guard. Probably will never become a starter, but can score the ball, has a chip on his shoulder. Just like the attitude he brings.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Miles to Minnesota.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Sacramento's up again.
Yeah. What's up, Carson?
Screw it. I'm going to take Amani Bates for them.
Amani Bates. Nice. I like it. Contrast to the Chris Murray, Jordan Walsh draft picks, and then they swing for it. It's intriguing. All right, fifth pick for the Pacers. They took Walker, Najee, Lewis, and Sissoko. So that's a power forward, a center, a wing, and a wing. I mean, they don't really need a point guard. Probably just take best player available. So obviously, Drew Timme. I don't know. I need to dive into tape on some of these like deep draft guys and find guys I like in the next couple of days. I'm gonna go with just an upside pick. He's gonna be a two-way contract. I'm gonna go with Council. I feel like he, out of anyone left, might have the most upside. So there you go.
All right, 56. We're back to Memphis. I kind of like this fit here. They like their hustle, do it all type guys, dirty work guys. So I'm gonna take Tamani Kamara here.
All right, Kamara. 57 is a forfeited pick. So, how deep does this draft board go? Zeki went back. Okay, I'll draft him for the forfeited pick then. And then 58's forfeited.
Clintman.
Oh, yeah, I could get Clintman off the board. I should have just gotten those guys off the board, I guess. Clintman. All right. 59 is Washington. So they took Anthony Black and Amari Bailey. Does anybody else have an AB initial? Adama Sanogo. Close. I wish I could sort by name. Antoine Davis. We're getting closer. Alex Fudge, Alan Flanagan, Anton Watson went back. Thank goodness. Yeah, I don't think there's another AB.
Adembona went back.
Adembona went back? Yeah, that would be perfect. Whoops. Did Trey Alexander go back?
I think he did. I don't know.
So many guys went back, dude.
Well, there was like almost 300 that came out, and obviously there's only 58 draft picks. So.
You know what's funny is, like, if they move off Gafford, they could use some center depth. So, like, if I went with the best center, in my opinion, left on the board, I mean, none of these guys impress me. But Adama Sanogo. We'll stay with the A names. Adama Sanogo, and then 60 is Milwaukee. Their first pick of the draft.
All right, so last year they had the last pick and they took a stash. I think this year they probably do it again and take Zvonimir Ivisic.
I already took him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, remember I replaced Jurisic with him.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't replace him on mine. Sorry.
Got you. All good.
I
think that's who they'd go with if he was here for sure. But...
Go back. How come I can't go back?
You just draft anyone else on the board. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. It's just messing up.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to go with I'm just gonna go with Chris Livingston then.
All right. So let's just go over like some of our favorite sleepers in each range. I love Andre Jackson as a sleeper. I have the same vibes with him as I did with Herb Jones. Just a playmaking defender whose jump shot isn't good in college, but I don't think his form is like completely broken. So like might be able to become, 33, 34%er. But just like smart player defensive piece. Like Andre Jackson Jr. I don't like on Houston or like Utah or like a team that's in rebuild mode, but on a team trying to contend in the right system, I love Andre Jackson Jr. Like Golden State and Denver are the two places for Andre Jackson Jr. that I think he would absolutely excel in. And then if Portland, like, I wouldn't hate him in Portland either, just because I think we need that point of attack defender, and he could kind of do some of the same things as Josh Hart does, and he's a really good rebounder as well. So he's maybe like my favorite sleeper in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And then Prosper at 23 is probably my other favorite sleeper at this point. Who's your like favorite sleeper guys kind of past the lottery?
I still think Derek is. I think like if this was like a draft where he didn't have such a tough time at Duke, I think he's a lottery level talent. So I think getting him like in the 20s is a steal.
It's interesting because you got a couple of those guys. Like Nick Smith is in the same mold too.
Yeah. And depending on where Jordan Hawkins goes, like he goes 21 here, I think like he's a better player than 21.
Yeah.
I think Chris Murray is better than 24. I've been watching some Ohio State games lately. I do think Sensabaugh should be a little higher than 25. Colby Jones probably deserves to be a little higher than 30th, like he went in this draft.
Honestly, like a lot of these guys, like in that range through 40 should be like in a different draft would probably be going higher because that range of the draft I think is really good.
And you see or hear about promises for like Sissoko and Pods and different players that are back there in the late teens, early 20s. So that could push a lot of these guys down even further.
That's what I'm wondering is like I feel like two guys will go in the teens where it's like not crazy to draft them there, but it's also a huge surprise like Sissoko 18 to Miami and like Podziemski, like the Lakers really like him or something. Like I feel like there will be two of those guys that go there and you'll have like a Leonard Miller maybe available at 23 or like Jet Howard I think could fall to the 20s, mid-20s. Same with Nick Smith.
Yeah.
I feel like Andre Jackson Jr. probably goes lower than this, but I feel like he goes in the first round.
Well, see, the weird part is there's teams like the Lakers, Heat, and Warriors there in the teens that were, made second round or later in the conference finals. So they're more like win now players. Yeah. So like I could definitely see them taking one of those guys, but I don't know, like some of them I could also see Andre Jackson being more of like an early second round pick.
Yeah. I've tended to have some pretty good luck just guessing on guys that aren't good shooters in the second round and like giving them first round grades and then panning out. Like Austin Reeves wasn't a good shooter coming into the draft. Like he was 30%, but I thought he could become a decent shooter, and he has. Tyrese Maxey is a little higher than that, but he was like 30% in college, and I thought he could be a better shooter. I thought his form was fine. He ended up going higher. Herb Jones was one of those guys as well. D'Anthony Melton even wasn't really a shooter back in college. Now he's a 3-and-D guy. Like I just, like we've seen Bruce Brown become an okay shooter. He wasn't a shooter coming into the league, and it's just like that's all he needed to do to become a solid, good role player on a contending team, a team that won the championship. And I just feel like Andre Jackson would be a guy like, even if he doesn't shoot, does so many little things well and is such a smart player. He'll be able to play a role, but then it's like if he becomes 34%, 35% three-point shooter, and I don't think his form is that bad, he'll be probably a top 15 player from this draft. So
yeah.
So that's a guy I like. Portland, I think, needs to draft somebody at 23 with some size that can help at the point of attack. I think that's a clear need, and it's hard to find guys like that don't have like a weakness of being terrible getting through screens like a Jeremy Grant. So, like if the Blazers traded Ant and still had 23 and like Nick Smith Jr. was there and wanted to gamble on his upside as a guard and like had a hole there, sure, but I think at this point, like somebody with some size that can guard down a little bit, like Leonard Miller, Omax, Andre Jackson, those are the types of players that I'm looking at for Portland at 23.
Well, not to put a downer on this, but they haven't worked out any of those guys. Like
they worked out Andre Jackson.
Well, yeah,
right?
But at the time they worked him out, he was considered more not like 23 range, right? It was more second round range.
Yeah.
So he could definitely be there or like go higher than 23 or be the pick, but there's not a lot of like, I don't think they've worked out Chris Murray. I don't think they've worked out Noah Clowney. Hawkins, Keontae George, Nick Smith, like I don't think Sensabaugh, they haven't worked out any of those guys, right? So
yeah, they worked out Maxwell Lewis.
What makes me wonder about that is do they have someone already there that they know they're going to take? There's been some links with Najee and Schmitz, so maybe that's someone they look at, but it seems kind of weird if they keep Baji, like they're kind of the same mold of player. So yeah, I don't know if they might still just be thinking that they're going to get their picks back with that one.
I mean, it only makes sense to do that if you're actually trading those picks for something.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I completely agree. I'm just...
Yeah, well, let me switch back off of this. like that makes sense only if you're actually like using those picks to trade for someone. Otherwise, just let Chicago still have your future first. Like you could figure it out later, right? But also you should still, no matter what, do your due diligence. You should still try and do your due diligence, and if there's a guy that just blows you away, then figure something else out to get your pick back and take a guy who blows you away. Because, I mean, Anthony Simons, thank goodness we took him at 24. We took him at 24. We have the 23rd pick. Right? Like, you can get a good player. So, that kind of bugs me. I haven't really, like, put two and two together because they brought in a lot of guys, but now that you say it...
they've all been, like, in... They're I mean, they, of course, brought in Whitmore, the Thompson twins... Miller tomorrow, Scoot, those guys. But I haven't seen Jarris yet. I mean, it still could happen. But to me, they were in a position where they could have gotten pretty much anyone of the top 10 guys, right, to come in because they would all, wouldn't they try to work out and get the third pick, right? Yeah. Move up in the draft. So they should have brought them all in just to have some info on them. Start a folder on them, or add to their folders on them. And then 23, there's so many players in that range that could, just talked about, fall or move up. So and then 43, you can get all the second round guys. And then, undrafted guys are, of course, going to work out for any team that wants them to. So to me, they should have been able to get a workout with any player they wanted pretty much outside of Wembanyama. So, I don't understand the thinking of not just trying to have as many workouts as possible.
Yeah. I don't get it, but whatever. Like, maybe that's good news for them trading the third pick. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm catching up on chat. Oh, I got it on my phone. It's already caught up. It's lagging behind on my computer. Did we have a donor? No, we caught up.
Yeah, I read them all.
James. I have a feeling there's going to be like a Leonard Miller on the board at 23, and we're going to like trade it for our first back, and then not trade our first for anything, and then just be like.
That'll be like me with Sadiq Bey and on the board at 16 when we traded it for Rook.
Yeah, like I have a bad feeling it's going to be something like that.
And then what happened the next year? Where was our pick? I forgot because we traded 2 first, right? So
yeah, it was like
I'm blanking on what happened. Like
what draft was that? 2021 draft?
2021 draft. Yeah, it would have been.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we had 23rd. It was Garuba. Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Alex.
Oh yeah, and he hasn't amounted to anything. So, but also he's stuck in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, chat, I recommend that you just watch some film on some second round prospects and see if anyone jumps out to you. It's always fun to have guys in the draft that you just think are better than the consensus, and then see if that ends up being right. Like Herb Jones is a guy I root for to do well. Trey Murphy as well, because I was high on both those guys in that draft. Higher than consensus on him. Austin Reeves, I don't root for him because he's a Laker, obviously, but it's been cool to kind of see what I saw in him that I felt like, like he went undrafted. Other people didn't see it in him. It's cool to see like what I saw in him in college pan out in the NBA.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to have those prospects. So, if you want to, if you got the time, I will have a prospect watch video relatively soon on second round prospects because obviously there's only a week left, so I got to get it out soon. But I'll recommend some second round players for you guys to take a look at and just develop an opinion on, and, we'll see where that goes.
Yep. And also my off-season guide is pretty much ready to go. Just need some graphics, and so that should be out soon too.
Yep. The grind is here. The grind is real. Anyway, we'll take questions. If you need life advice, now's your time to ask questions. Also, if you need a Manta mask, check out the link in the description box below. Got cooling masks. We're getting into June. It's actually been raining in the Pacific Northwest, but the heat is right around the corner. We've had some wicked hot summers the past few years. I'll never forget when it was 120 and I had no AC. That was not fun. You can get yourself a Manta cooling mask at mantasleep.com. Link in the description box below. Promo code Uprise for 10% off. 10% off. You can get yourself a sound mask. They have a bunch of cool masks. Bunch of different masks and different features for masks. So you can find something that fits you. Shout out to them for sponsoring us. I love that company, man. Anyway. Question time. If you guys got any. Is chess a sport? No, it's a board game. A board game.
And that's someone who loves chess saying that.
Yeah. I play a lot of chess. How do I bump my MySpace friend/follower account? What a question.
What? No, I did not say anything about Phillips. No, you're goodbye, Adam. Have a horrible day.
Goodbye.
What is your chess rating?
Mine? 1,500.
Nice.
In Rapid. Rapid is pretty much all I play. I got up to 1650, that's my peak, and I'm at 1,500, so.
Tyler, I probably would have taken Miller at 3, and then probably Murray at 23. I don't remember who was on the board at 43. I already closed it, sorry. Alex wants to know how many licks it takes to reach the center of a Tootsie Pop. Why don't you go buy one, Alex, and tell us next stream?
Yeah,
that's your homework.
Your own research, yep.
Yeah. Happy birthday to my wife. It's her birthday today.
Happy birthday to your wife.
Yeah. She's not watching, but happy birthday anyway.
Tell her I said happy birthday if you want.
Right.
And it won't be a lie, so. Eric's stats are wrecked today. I asked him, he didn't say them, so. He said he scores and rebounds too much to remember. So I'm guessing like 50 and 30.
No, I didn't have. I only scored like 10 points. I don't really shoot that much. Maybe 12. I don't know.
Shipless, if I could figure out the answer to that, I would let you know, but. Slow down and think is my answer. But that can be an answer for pretty much anything, any situation you ever find yourself in.
Shouldn't you start or study certain methods or systems and
openings
get good on that?
Yeah, but I mean, it just takes one mental mistake where you don't see that your queen's hanging and your game's done.
Yeah,
so. It's tough, makes you focus.
No, I do not bust out the skyhook. I do have, I do have little hooks, but not skyhooks.
Anyway, both the Twins end up as Blazers? Probably not. I don't see how that would really be possible, unless we're trading Dame. So, not a fan of that.
Yeah, not really.
A man in Portland, a Sar in Orlando. Complete opposite sides of the country.
What's my favorite post move? Tori, do you want to tell him?
I don't think you want me to tell him. You could tell him.
Well, I like power dribble to from the left block, power dribble to the right, and spin baseline or drop step baseline to get the person on my back, and or
he likes putting his defender to sleep by power dribbling into them for 30 to 40 seconds.
Power dribble for that long, unless I'm waiting for someone to freaking cut.
Feels like it's.
Oh. Anyways, I also like the up and under.
Yeah, Eric loves going baseline though. He loves baseline. Don't let him go baseline. Because that's also not where your help is. So.
Yeah, we talked about that on some post-game streams this year.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Frickin' Winslow.
I'm going to do the opposite against you, Eric. Come get some.
Truly, Spencer, it's going to be during the draft. I mean, never say never before, but I would assume it's going to be during.
Yeah,
teams have to know if Scoot's there or not.
Yeah, there were some rumors coming out the year we traded for Zach Collins that we were potentially moving up, and that Zach Collins was the target. And even though I was still wishing that wasn't the case, and I was fine with it later on, but yeah, I was really hoping we were moving up for Mitchell, but. Oh, yeah, Jim Moran's back as our G League coach. What do you think of that, Tori?
Cool, I guess.
Yeah.
How nervous are we on the draft, says AJ. I'm not nervous because it's like I have a limited amount of time to do a lot of stuff, and that's like all I can think about right now, and it's stressful. Like, I'm just stressed right now. I'm not really nervous.
Yeah, I'm just more like, oh, crap, what are we going to do? Like, just praying it's not bad.
Yeah, it's hard to even think about that, because if I ever start thinking, like, what are we going to do, then it's like, I need to work on graphics right now, and for the rest of the day, and then I need to make a video, and like, that's where my mind goes. So, yeah. You guys will understand when the draft stream is here. Let's just say that.
Alex wants to know who's more ambidextrous between us. Tori can finish with both hands on drives. I can finish on post moves with both hands, but yeah, I'd probably say Tori.
I can finish left. The problem is I don't decide to try and finish left enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just try and work my right hand at times. I love the right-handed backhand layup, and normally I knock that down on the left side and never get that blocked. But
indoors?
Yeah, outdoors usually, except for the last run we were at, because I couldn't make any. Dude, I was just could not make a thing. It didn't matter if it was a lane or a three. It was brutal.
No crap, Dro. That wasn't the freaking question.
Yes, sir, Dro.
20 years
Gas me up, Dro.
Okay,
Let's go.
You're more athletic than a freaking 280-pound, almost 44-year-old man. Congratulations.
I'll take it. Let's go. What time do you plan on starting the draft live stream? How early prior to the draft starting, and is it going to be on the main channel? Yeah, it's going to be on the main channel. And how early do we normally start it? Like an hour before?
Yeah, I would do an hour before. Sometimes the Ennis Panther trade happened the morning of. So like, if something happens or there's news, we'll obviously be on.
Or like a legitimate rumor drops.
Yeah.
An hour and a half before, like we'll go live a little bit early.
But yeah, let's just plan on 4 o'clock as an hour before, I think. So
yeah, like the goal is to legitimately be done with graphics Wednesday and done with prepping the stream Wednesday. So like Thursday, I can just relax and go live early if I have to, because I've never had a big stream where I'm not like running around up to the time the stream starts. Running around figuratively, I'm sitting here like trying to finish graphics and doing a bunch. So.
AJ's debating whether to go to the draft. It's in Brooklyn. I would say, so I know you're a little older than this, but in 1992, the Shaquille O'Neal, Alonzo Mourning, Christian Laettner draft was held in Portland, Oregon. I was only 13, and I remember tickets only being $5 to go. And my parents didn't want to go, so I didn't really have anyone to go with. So I'm 13. Who am I supposed to go with? So I didn't end up going, but it's always something that like I wish I would have been able to experience that. So I'd say go if you have a chance to.
Yep. Were you guys mad when the Canner trade dropped? It was just such a mediocre trade. It was like we got rid of Hazonia and got Canner, like whatever. But then we were sitting there saying like you can't bring Melo back. That's what I was saying. I was like, you cannot play Melo with Canner defensively off the bench. It's a disaster. Like, why would you ever even think that could work? And then that's what they did. And then Stotts wouldn't stagger them at all. Like Stotts wouldn't play Melo with Nurk and Canner with Covington. Even though those pairings make more sense, he always insisted on subbing Melo and Cantor in together, and then we just start getting cooked. You guys remember that? Yeah. It was brutal. I ranted about it so much.
Yeah, I had talked about it for like a week leading up to it, that Boston was going to salary dump Cantor, and that if they give up the 30th pick, like, I want that pick, please. Yeah. And then we end up letting Memphis have the 30th pick.
To take
and
on
we take Cantor. It's like, oh man, we could have the 30th pick, and that ended up being Desmond Bain. Yeah.
I was gonna see if chat knew, but yeah, Desmond Bain.
Blevins already ruined it in chat. So.
Oh well, yeah, Desmond freaking Bain.
Yeah.
For taking on his 1 year of Hazonia on a minimum. That's like such an okay. That's like the worst move that O'Shea made that is never talked about. Is basically giving up the 30th pick to cap dump Hazonia, who's on a minimum contract. Bro, I hope who's the 30th pick? The Clippers? I hope the Clippers are looking to cap dump the 30th pick with like who's like a minimum contract they have. Amir Coffey. Or whatever. Like, I'll take Amir Coffey on a minimum contract for the 30th pick. Please. Like, what the hell are we talking about?
Yeah. We were going for it, though. We weren't worried about the 30th pick.
God. Going for it with Ennis Cantor.
I'll say this now. If we have a chance to do one of those type of trades to add another pick using our trade exception or something, and we're just too cheap to do it, it's
Yeah, give us Jason Preston with the 30th pick. We'll take that for like the draft rights to. I don't know.
Well, see, Ballmer don't care. He's not trading that pick.
Crap. Okay, who has the 29th pick? 31st pick. Who is the trade?
Well, second
is
round.
Is there a TJ Warren with like whoever has the 32nd pick? Like back when TJ Warren was decent and only making $10 million, and the Suns cap dumped him with the 32.
But then they got. What, the 24th pick or something for taking on Baines, and then they took Ty Jerome or something.
Yeah. Ty Jerome.
Something like that, yeah. That's when we got Nas. We were there live, our first stream for that.
I mean, if Indiana's trying to cap dump anyone, they have 5 picks, so... If they're trying to cap dump anyone on a minimum, although I don't think they even have anyone on a minimum.
They're not trying to cap dump. Like, crap load of.
Why can't it happen? Why does it always happen to us and not for us? Like, we always, like, that's the type of trade we would give another team. We wouldn't get that trade. Yeah. Are you going to trade the 30th pick in a cap dump on a guy on a minimum that you just signed last year and never should have signed in the first place because he's not good?
Well, I mean, this isn't an excuse because Olshey should have been on it from the beginning, but the story is that Memphis and Boston agreed to a trade, and we only became part of it to get Cantor. So we were never in play for the 30th pick, technically. But we should have been talking to Boston to do it anyway.
It's like, so what? Boston was giving up the 30th pick with Cantor to Memphis. And then we said, oh, well, since you're getting the 30th pick with Cantor, here, take Hazonia instead, and we'll take Cantor. Is that how it's said to have gone down?
Well, I think, yeah. So we said, well, we'll take Cantor, and if you're just giving him away, and then Boston let Cantor decide if he wanted to go to Memphis or Portland. He chose to come back to Portland.
I mean, at that point, just say, hey, and we'll give you a somewhat protected second-round pick. Or we'll give you a little extra cash and cut Memphis out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
Like, how
they were
does
too
Memphis get? I mean, but like, how does out of all that, how does Memphis get Desmond Bane?
We're
Like,
taking on Hazonia. Yeah.
it's just like, why can't we ever be that team that?
Instead, we trade away our players for someone who has first round value and then doesn't.
Bro, they got more for taking on a minimum contract than we got for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. Like, how? It's just ridiculous, bro.
We got Justice Winslow and Eric Bledsoe's contract, dude.
Bro, Justice Winslow better not be in the rotation next year. Like, oh god, I'm scared. Okay, now I'm scared. Now I'm nervous because I'm thinking about Justice Winslow and Drew Eubanks being in the rotation again.
Yep.
I mean, if we're tanking next year, I guess, but next year's draft isn't good. I don't even want to tank.
I can see the comment now. Torrey, before he got hurt in December, the Blazers' defense was really good, and then it fell apart when he got hurt. God. It's already the storyline.
Like if any player, if the team plays good for 8 games, any player in the rotation was good, and therefore should be in the rotation. Like
except Nurk.
Except Nurk.
Nurk sucks no matter what.
Yeah. So anybody in the rotation, anyone
Nurk,
in the rotation.
Don't block me because of that.
Yeah, don't block him. He's making fun of all the people that senselessly hate on you. But so like if we play good for 8 games and Nurkic is in the rotation, because Nurkic is so bad, anybody else in the rotation is really good, because how else would they play good with Nurk, right? So they should be the starting power forward and center next year or something. Blazer fan logic 101 right there. God. Better not. Bro, after all this talk, like, we need better depth. We want to go for it. Like, just, if there's nothing for the 3rd pick and you draft somebody with it, okay, fine. Just put out a better bench. And find, like, a Dorian Finney-Smith to start at the 3. Yeah. That team should be better than last year's. Mm-hmm. Just because it has a better bench, and Sharpe's better, and Ant's better, and Amen can do something, or Brandon Miller can do something. Like, you know what I mean? And shoot, if we were 3 games better at the trade deadline last year, we would have been a home court advantage team. Wouldn't it have been funny if we decided to blow it up when we had, like, the 4th seed?
I mean, we weren't that far off from doing it.
We were 2.5 games off the 4th seed when we did blow it up. So just imagine we blow it up when we have the 4th seed. But the fact is we blew it up because we were 2.5 games worse than the 4th seed. So that's not much. I mean, I don't think it was necessarily
the hard.
I mean, we got the 3rd pick out of it, so it's fine. But it's like, I don't know. Hart's good though. That's the
even
problem.
Then,
if we had the 3rd pick and Hart, ooh.
They almost messed that up by going and playing all their good players in Detroit and Orlando and winning those games, and then we thought there was no chance, but yeah.
God. Anyway, any more questions, chat, before I keep thinking about this blasphemy? Kyle with the avatar picture, I think you need to add something to your name so that we can differentiate you from the dude that's just spamming Scoot in all caps.
Or just say, like, not trade Dame Kyle, assuming you're not trade Dame.
Change tomorrow. Okay, let us know what you change it to. Almost beat Memphis until Sharpe sat the last 8 minutes. Yeah. Thank God we tanked and passed Orlando, bro. Thank goodness we passed Orlando.
No, it's not bad to want Scoot. We get it. You want Scoot. Like,
I'm just giving you crap, bro.
It's not gonna.
It's not serious. You can want whoever you want. You can want frickin' Zvonimir Ivisic if you want. At 3. I don't care. Anthony Simmons, $2 dono, says, is Simons in 3 for Siakam last resort? If it's an option for the team that they're considering, I hope it's the last resort. Because I'm just not a big fan of Siakam as the fit here. But I feel like that's what it could end up being. I just think Simons is undervalued.
Yeah.
by other GMs, which is just ridiculous.
He's
And there
more
was
of like a
top 100
salary matching thing, not a.
So stupid. How does a dude? God, I don't even want to get into this.
Come on, Looney. Higher than.
Makes me want to throw my hat through my webcam and end the stream.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they would do that if that's the trade. But I don't know if Toronto is doing that either. Like, that's how ridiculous there.
Trevin, stop trolling, bro. I don't got the energy. We're 2.5 hours in. Don't make me.
Yep.
Don't make me do it.
Well, thanks everyone for watching the stream. Appreciate you all, especially all over 200 of you that stuck around for the whole thing.
We'll be live again Monday. And if there's like a bunch of trade rumors, I wouldn't hate the idea of like going live. I mean, I could just do it as a solo stream if you're busy. Like if there's a bunch of rumors, maybe I'll do a live stream like Saturday or Sunday night, depending. But then, so the draft's next Thursday. Obviously, we're not gonna have Blazers Uprise live next Thursday. We do plan on doing a draft preview stream the night before, so that Wednesday, the night before the draft, and that'll just like tie everything together going into Thursday. So I don't know if I'll do that on this channel or the main channel. I'll probably do it on this channel, draft preview show, because we get enough traction on this channel now. You guys are awesome. Yeah. So hit the like before you leave. Join the Discord, link in the description box below. And with that said, we're out of here. We'll catch you Monday, or potentially before then. Got some videos coming up. This time I mean it, because I've actually recorded and edited some stuff. Eric has his off-season preview, too. I just need to slap some graphics on that, so we got some stuff for you guys on the main channel. Looking forward to those. With that being said, we're out of here. Catch you next time. Thank you to Bet Online for sponsoring the stream. And until next time, as always,